All right, Winning Plays Podcast is back in action, and the NBA dog days are kind of here, but they're honestly not going to be here all summer long. My name is Brian Robb, joined by the one and only Brendan Jackson, B-Jax of Celtics Hub fame. We're here, Jax, to catch up here because I haven't talked to you about the offseason yet. The Celtics have actually been somewhat busy in the past week filling out the rest of the roster. And guess what? The Kevin Durant stuff, it's just not going to go away until he gets traded from the Celtics standpoint. And so nothing's going to happen for the next few weeks. Everyone's on vacation in the NBA right now. You're not going to see a big blockbuster deal right now, but we're still going to dive into the very latest in that situation later on in the pod. But first off, we have to bring up the most important thing right now. How do you feel about the Noah Vonleh signing for the end of the bench? Haverhill, Massachusetts native, having a chance to come home and make good at the end of the fifth big on the Celtics roster.
It's funny, man, because I was like, okay, is he going to go Vonleh or Caboclo? Like, which guy is he going to bring up, like, make this be bigger news than it is? Yeah, obviously love the fact that he's a local kid. Hate the fact that he went to Indiana instead of BC or UMass or something like that, obviously. But, when he first came out, he was like a mid-20s pick. I forget where he was. He was definitely in the first round.
He went 9th, actually. I'm looking up right now. Yeah, right. I felt like I knew it was lottery. I didn't realize it was 9.
So yeah, because I guess he got drafted by the Hornets, right?
Yes,
so all I know is one of my all I remember of him really in the NBA is I have a good friend who's a big Trailblazers fan, and when he was on the Trailblazers for like a season and a half or whatever, he was very high on Vonleh, and I was like, dude, no, this is not there. But the thing is, it's like Vonleh for the Blazers was supposed to be like an impact player. As your fifth big on this team, he might be able to give you some regular season minutes. So I'm actually pretty stoked. I mean, he's older. He seems to have had a couple of good seasons overseas.
Yep.
He played pretty well for the Nets, even though they didn't need him and they got rid of him. They wanted to play Claxton and inexplicably signed oh my God, Andre Drummond, because that's what teams are going to do over Noah Vonleh, whatever. But as your fifth big, I'm not going to lie. It's fine. It's cool.
Yeah, it's it's funny when you look back at just the arc of his career. And like you say, he got taken by the Hornets and then he was traded as like the centerpiece in like a Batum trade.
Right.
Right. Like young way back in player, top 10 pick, didn't get to play much his first year. And then in Portland, and then he's averaged like 17 minutes or less per game his entire career, except for 1 year. Like 2018-19 with the Knicks was like his best year by far when he was 23, averaged pretty much 8 and 8 a game in 57 starts. But I assume that was that was for a pretty bad Knicks team. Yeah, 17 and 65 for a terrible Knicks team. But now with a little older, a little wiser, the time overseas, like you said, spent a year in China. So it's just a training camp. I mean, there's no guaranteed money here, but if you just need like an energy rebounder at the end of the bench, which I think is actually a pretty important need for this team right now, because if your other bigs off the bench is like Luke Cornett and Gallo and Kevin Gallo, right? So that's going to be about it. Like you need one of those guys to at least be able to grab a few boards on nights where Al Horford or Rob's hurt and someone else is in foul trouble.
No, totally. And like, as much as like we were dogging Tice at the end of the season last year, even though like we obviously love Tice, right? Like we'll always have a soft spot for him, but he played pretty badly at the end of the season and obviously made himself, more expendable, plus the contract.
Yeah, the contract, you just don't want to pay You don't pay a center that much money off the bench.
That being said, though, like if none of these guys that they have, Cornett, Kevin Gelly, and Vonleh, if they all make the team, whatever, if these guys can't be that fourth big when someone goes down for an injury or COVID or whatever, it's going to be a problem. Like, especially during the regular season, they're going to lose some games because of it if they can't get on the court. And I think you said it a couple pods ago with Ryan, I like Luke Cornett, I'm sure he's got really good locker room stuff. Like, I bet you he's like good in practice, whatever. But someone in the Celtics really likes him, and enough people in the Celtics organization
that's clear.
really likes him. But if they're going to sign him and actually sign him as if he were a rotation player, same with Sam Hauser, I just want them to play. That's it. Like, I don't care if they can play or not. If they're going to take up a roster spot and they're not Udonis Haslem, right? Like, I want them to play, because there's so many times when the regular season, like, minutes just need to get soaked up. And instead, if they don't play, then everyone else plays longer, and we can't afford to play Al Horford 50 minutes a game.
Yes, 100%. And I think that really nails the biggest priority of their offseason right now is to building that depth up. And they did that, obviously, but getting a pair of guys in Brogdon and Gallinari that certainly would take the onus off the backcourt and the wings. And so, like, Tatum doesn't have to play 37 minutes a night. But you still didn't really address that from a big situation. And that's fine if you want to play small. But I'm not sure Ime Udoka wants to do it. I mean, we'll see if he wants to do that or not, if he's comfortable playing Grant at the 5 or even Gallo at the 5 in small stints, and just see if he can get away with that. But
I mean, I'm so happy you said that, though, because everyone I've heard talk about Gallo talks about him like he's a power forward. And yeah, I get it. He plays 4, 5, small 5, whatever, because he's 6'10" and he's like a little thicker. But the dude is a wing player.
He's a wing player. I mean? Yeah, like, he's not right. He's not gonna be able to like, if you're playing him in center, you're gonna get destroyed in the boards.
Exactly. And you can't defend. You can't defend a big guy. Like, no. So that's exactly. You don't want to be doing that 10 minutes, and then you also don't want to be doing that because then he'll get hurt if he's like trying to guard like big guys too. So that's something like, that's more of a gimmick type situation in games that's you can go to, but you don't want to rely on that. So yeah, like Kornet, like you said, we have to see if these guys can play. And he isn't, I mean, they sign and re-sign him again. He's only, his deal is guaranteed for like $75,000, something very small. So it's very possible all these guys will be cut and they'll just go to the scrap heap or make a trade if they don't like what they see from these guys in camp. But they certainly like the continuity that Kornet gave them last year. And now you have a couple guys in Vonleh and Kevin Gelly that are just going to be more of a traditional, athletic big that can get a bunch of boards. And it's like, okay, are they going to be able to hold up enough defensively to win that final spot? I don't know. I mean, we haven't talked to you about, like, who do you like in that battle right now? From just like, what did you see from Summer League from Kevin Gelly? Like, do you feel like any of those guys have the inside track on it? Well, that's the thing. It's more recency bias. I mean, so I guess, Kevin Gelly's on the 2-way.
He's on 2-way. And so he's safe. He's pretty much safe, I think, from that standpoint of like,
because you can play in Maine though. Yeah.
Right. You can play in Maine, and then he can play up to like 50 games. Right. So it's a nice way to like, okay, we have this guy, we can develop him, we can pay him, but he's not on the cap. So it's like, it's a safe way to like have an extra big on the roster without having to actually like pay one on the 15 man.
Right. And they can always convert it. If he becomes really good, convert it. He's in the playoff roster, whatever. And then what's Vonleh? Exhibit 10? Like, is he just like, training camp?
Like he'll get $50,000 to come to camp probably, and that's it.
Yeah. So obviously I'm thinking Kevin Gelly has the better inside track. They're about the same age. They're both former first round picks. In my mind, it's like, who can replicate as much of Robb as possible while adding in maybe a Tice 3-pointer here or there? Because I know Kevin Gelly has worked on a shot, and I know Vonleh has at least shown a willingness to shoot. Yeah. I don't know how well he shoots, but he's shown a willingness to shoot. So like, I really want to see, but what I really want to see is like, can 20% of either of those guys catch lobs like Robb? Because that can give like 6 points a game just on lobs. Like, it just really easy, Malcolm Brogdon can absolutely throw the lob. Obviously, Marcus Smart can throw a lob. So like, I would love for a team to ignore those two guys in the dunker spot and them just get 6 points a game.
And I think it's a great point by you, because they're going to have so many good offensive players around them that's going to be available for them. Like, absolutely. That's going to be a regular part of the, like, that's, if they have that, if they show that kind of capability in those, 10, 20 games per year where where Al is having a night off in the back-to-back, or Rob is just out because he's out, or both of them are out. It's a situation where Ime Udoka really love to lean in hard to all those guys, and it obviously paid off until the finals. But for the regular season now, it was clear that they were done in the finals. Like, a lot of those guys were completely worn down. And now the plan is to be like, all right, let's make sure we have everyone having enough in the tank at that point. And Al Horford's not coming off of a 30-game season in Oklahoma City anymore, where he didn't have to
that's a really good point.
Do anything. So that's so you have to
my night, baby.
right. You really have to work in that rest for him if you want
a year older and a season, like a full season to the finals.
Yes. Oh, so that's a lot. Do you have any thoughts on Bruno? I honestly, I didn't watch a ton of him in Toronto. I know he bounced around a little bit after that. He played in, I want to say, Brazil last year, so just out of the NBA entirely. It's funny that Brad Stevens is he's going with these more, a lot of teams will go the undrafted rookie route. He's going with, no, let's get the veteran, once premier first round pick guys that have been around the block a couple of times, and maybe we find the resurgence in the mid-20s.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's obvious that he's really trying to thread the needle between not a young guy, rookie, whatever. I know I can't trust you because you've never gone through a full NBA season, or you've only gone through one and you didn't show enough. And then I definitely don't want the over the hill veteran. I don't want a team of all Gallos, right? All Gallinaris, because he just doesn't think they're going to, I'm assuming, hold up for the whole season. They didn't go, I don't know if they had a chance to get him, but they didn't even sniff around PJ Tucker. I know that was collusion. Right. It was pretty much a done deal. He was going to Philly, but there was no even whiff. And that, in my mind, is would be a perfect option to add to the finals loser, get a wing player who can 3-and-D and is tough and all that stuff. Anyway, it's interesting that he's going this way with Vonleh, Cabangeli, and Caboclo. With Bruno, it's just, I'm a big draft type guy. I love it. I eat it up. I know most of it's just made up whole cloth, you know what I mean, from guys who watch grainy YouTube videos. I love being that guy. I absolutely do. And you get certain feelings about certain players. And obviously with Giannis, that happened a few years before Bruno got drafted. Everyone wants to find the next Giannis, and his specs are crazy. He's 6'9". He's got a 7'7" wingspan, something insane like that. If you look at him, his arms are so long. He might even be that guy in the dunker spot, but obviously it just never panned out for him. From what I've read, he has all the same traits as Giannis, but he doesn't have the head and the heart, Yeah. So who knows how fair that is. That's pretty easy. I've never met the guy. I've never even followed him that closely. So it's pretty easy for me to read that and say, okay, that makes sense. But I don't know if that's true. So that's sort of all my thoughts on Bruno Caboclo. I'm bummed he didn't get just become the next amazing guy, even though the Celtics didn't even draft him.
So I'm wondering how he does he make the team when he just shows off, okay, he can be a defensive force in
against wings that were bigs. That's where I can't find this guy.
That's the thing, right? It's and I think that is that was never really clear cut, because it's all right, he has the wingspan and stuff like that, and he's 6'9", but he's only 218 pounds. So he doesn't really rebound at all. So from that standpoint, I guess he rebounds a little bit, but certainly not what you'd expect for someone that size and with that kind of a wingspan.
He's Jabari Parker without the skill, he's a total, he looks like a perfect basketball player. He looks
block shots. We know that, but
he's super long. But again, who does he defend? Is this another, even though he's not a pure analog, but is this another Rob cover where, yeah, dude, I know you're not a center. I know you're not going to take the tip, but can you freelance and block shots or gobble rebounds or just try to deter someone? It was a puzzler. This is the one that's the real puzzler, because I don't know how he fits on this team. I don't know how he fits in the NBA, so I don't know how he fits on this team.
Well, he didn't at all last year, so that was.
It feels very much like Jabari Parker, kind of a hype signing.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a fun name, and then beyond that, so they still have other roster spots. I would guess the buzz based on how things look in summer league, I imagine Justin Jackson and Broderick Thomas are a couple guys that probably at least get a chance to make the team out of camp. I think they both had pretty strong summer leagues, and I think they clearly need another like real wing. I'd honestly like it to be a better wing than that, but Jackson,
guys.
right? But I don't know. Jackson looks pretty decent, so I know again another pretty much the same exact mold as these guys, but maybe with a little bit better of a resume.
Yeah, I mean, namesake aside, I've just never been a Justin Jackson guy.
Yeah,
I just because again, when people are like 6'7", 6'8", can shoot a little, can dribble a little, I just expect them to be really good. I'm spoiled by like the Gordon Haywards, the LeBron Jameses, like all these people that fit that archetype. Where it's like, no, you can do that. Like I've seen you hit stroke a three, I've seen you dribble, I've seen you pass, but like again, like it's never really like translated for me watching him in the league. And so I was really stoked about Broderick Thomas. I saw nothing from him on the Celtics regular season that made me think he could play. And then in summer league, he was just super active. He could shoot a little bit. He could handle a little bit, pass a little bit. It was kind of, I don't know. I was like, I got higher on Broderick Thomas watching him in summer league.
I agree. I was like, again, he didn't play much at all last year, but when he did play, in a couple meaningful games, it was like, all right, this is like, what are we doing bringing to the table here? But summer league, he was consistent. He was strong defensively, and
he was better than Hauser.
He was better than Hauser. Yeah. Oh yeah. He looked like the guy that was actually ready to help on both sides of the court from that standpoint. And so that's from an athleticism standpoint, there's no question that he's probably better than anyone that we've talked about today. And so if he can start to kind of put it together here, with the continuity factor of having been in the system for a full year last year too, I think he has a pretty big edge there. But that'll be a fascinating one to watch. They still have a couple more spots to open here, so we'll keep an eye on that. All right, Jax, we haven't talked at all since the KD leaks came out. We're a few weeks removed at this point. Steve Bulpett of Heavy.com actually reported that Durant was supposed to meet with the Nets this week. I'm just curious what your whole take on this whole situation is from all sides, from the Celtics side, from the Nets side, from Durant's side. How do you see this? We know what's out there. We can guess where this leaks came from. I think pretty obvious in the point. I'm curious where things go from here. Like, where do you think we look at in terms of training camp as the season goes on here, especially from the Brooklyn Durant perspective? If the market seems to be kind of stuck like it is right now.
Yeah. I think the fact that we haven't talked about it and it's been out for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever shows you everything you need to know about what I think of it. Like, yep. I think the biggest a couple of the biggest limiting factors are Durant is under control for 4 more seasons or whatever. So like, why wouldn't the Nets try to give it, try to repair that relationship? A,
right.
B, the Celtics just came off, 2 wins away from an NBA championship and then had a amazing offseason, right? Where they got at least on paper, markedly better. They took non-rotation guys or fringe rotation guys in Tice and turned them into, Gallo and Brogdon, and you really think that those guys will be in the rotation, probably in the playoffs, probably if they get to the finals. So my standpoint is at all of that, you have a window where your young guys are 24 and 25, your foundation building blocks. And as we all heard the rumors, it's going to definitely cost Jaylen Brown. So that's your 25-year-old building block you're going to trade for a 34-year-old who comes off an injury, and this is what's not getting enough play, but who is unhappy at a team that he handpicked with a roster that he handpicked. Yeah. So again, like, best friends are the guy who torpedoed your own franchise or tried to 2 years ago. I just like, have we learned nothing?
Right.
There's no,
when you put it like that, Jax,
there's no doubt in my mind that Kevin Durant is a better player than Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I'm not arguing that, right? right now in this moment, he is a better player than both those guys. He's a clear-cut number one. I personally don't think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have shown they're a clear-cut number one, especially the way they both performed at times in the finals. I know I'll get a lot of heat for that. I'm sorry.
No, you won't.
And listen, I hope to see it next season. That's a whole nother podcast. And I think I will, but again, a whole nother podcast. We're talking about Kevin Durant. So all those things, I totally concede that he's the better player. I just like from a fan perspective, I'm a Celtics fan. I want Jaylen Brown on this team from a, and then from a basketball sense, we all saw what happened with Kevin Garnett here. We got him when he was 30, 31. And we thought the window was open for a little bit longer, and the next season, just went up in flames. You know what I mean? We basically had 2.5 seasons of him, and that was it. And that was the whole window. And Durant's 34. Like if you could say, all right, we're trading Jaylen Brown, we're trading whoever else, and we'll get Kevin Durant, and you are guaranteed we're going to give you the Larry O'Brien trophy the next day, then fine, you make the trade. Why not? You win. I'm not a Kevin Durant guy. I don't like him personally. I think I hate the burner stuff, the burner account stuff. I don't know if you know that, he's got Twitter accounts.
Yep.
You got caught. I hate the fact that he's a 34-year-old, using homophobic slurs against Michael Rappaport for no reason. Like, that's just like, you're 34, you're not 15. So I think there's some arrested development there. And he's trying to get out of the team that he handpicked, and he's best friends with a dude who clearly just, you know what I mean? Just doesn't care about franchises. Not to say that he necessarily should, but like, I do. So those are sort of my scattered thoughts about him. If you want to talk about the rumors and stuff, like, I think it's hilarious where it's like, the rumor is Jaylen Brown and a first round pick and Derek White, and then the net side is no. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and like 3 first rounders. It's like, the answer to both of those is no. And I don't want to find a middle ground in that. I don't. Yeah. So those are my scattered thoughts.
And I doubt they will, to be honest. It's like, and so and like you said, I think it really makes sense if you look at how this is going to play out now. The Nets really have, I think, clearly their best move right now is just to try to repair it.
Yeah.
If they can and wait that out. And it really might hurt them more down the road in terms of like return if they have to get more desperate with teams. But I think the lack of willing suitors out there that can pay a reasonable price for Durant and still have enough left over to win is so low right now, where it really, like, you need some team to get more desperate, and that's not going to happen this offseason.
No, especially since like teams took themselves out of the running, like Phoenix took themselves out of the running. And so like in Miami took themselves out of the running.
Did Phoenix take, I wonder if there is, obviously Ayton is out, and they're supposedly, they're not going to trade Paul or Booker. I do wonder if like the best Brooklyn will eventually be able to do is like Bridges, Cam Johnson, all the picks, all the swaps, and whatever else they need. That's a terrible package, but that I can honestly see that being the best package that like emerges in a few months.
Totally. And I was totally thinking like the same if it's like Jaylen Brown and a pick, you know what I mean? Because Jaylen Brown is a better player than Bridges and Cam Johnson, right? So that obviously has more value. But like at that point though, then all 30 teams have a viable package, right?
I agree.
Yeah. So that's the tough part. So, and again, like, I just like, it's sort of like, there are plenty of dumb teams, right? And there are plenty of teams that will like, we can convince him to stay. We can convince him to stay. And like the Kawhi Leonard won a freaking championship with Toronto, and they could be ready-made to be right back there. And he was like, nah, peace, I'm out of here. Yeah. Like you can't convince people So you can't convince everyone to stay, and you barely can convince a single person to stay. And so I just it's a recipe for disaster. And I know he has to stay, right? He's got 3 seasons, but he has to stay with the Nets. So obviously none of this means anything. Like he could torpedo his way out of any team if he wanted to.
You have to, when you're giving up those kind of assets, you want to guarantee you're getting a fully engaged player for those, which is not, far from guaranteed. And so that's where that's going to cause some hesitation for these wild card teams that could give up what the Nets want, but then they're like, all right, is Durant going to be like, I don't want to be here, and this is not good enough to win. So but at the same time now, there's so many, the offers, the teams in play here, there's really not a lot of impressive stuff out there. So it's going to be, I'm just fascinated to see if Durant plays hardball with the Nets and they say, let's figure this out. And he's just like, no, screw you guys. I'll sit out, or I'm just going to dog it and really screw you guys over even more.
And this is where it sucks. Cause I am 99.99% always with the labor side of any argument. Right. So I'm players, right, over owners. Cause if I have to, root for a millionaire, it's definitely going to be against a billionaire. That's just the way I'm built. But in this sort of play where Kevin Durant got everything he wanted, they all conceded whatever, there's got to be some sort of contractual language where if you do something like this, where you knowingly torpedo a whole franchise, okay, do you have to is there a penalty, right? Is there a payment penalty? You got to pay back your contract, or you got to pay the luxury tax bill that they had to pay the last couple of seasons to get your handpicked players. It's just I don't know. I mean, those are both bad ideas and they will never be agreed on in the CBA, but still there's gotta be a way that you can save yourself from situations like this, where it's not no one forced him to sign a contract. A lot of these guys sign 1-and-1s, right? To keep that flexibility. No, he was no, I'm going to win multiple championships with my buddy Kyrie. We're nasty. We're tops of the league, and I get to handpick my players. So I'm here for the long haul. Well, guess what? He's not. And so things change so quickly. And that's why the Celtics are so fortunate they have the homegrown players. There's no guarantee that they're going to stay, right? There's also the idea that Jaylen Brown's up in 2024, and he just signed with Kanye West. Kanye West might make him play in the CBA, right? The Chinese basketball side. Who knows? Sure. Something completely off the wall. He might tell him, convince him to give up basketball. I have no idea. But so that's obviously a concern, what he was going to do in 2024. But I still would rather try to keep the homegrown, home developed talent, a guy that's gotten better every year and he's only 25. I just don't see why you would mortgage all of that opportunity for a guy who may not want to even play for you.
Well, I think the vast majority of the Celtics fan base agrees with you, from just based on people I've talked to and social media over the last few weeks, but where it's certainly not going to go away for at least another month or two here as this drags out. We're going to.
Well, would you do it though? You haven't said if you would do it or not.
Oh, I think I would do it for the Celtics offer that was on the table, but I'm not doing it for what, I'm not giving up more picks and more players to do it.
So you would do Jaylen Brown, Derek White in a pick.
Yes, I would absolutely.
Just because he's that good.
Yeah. I think he's just that good. I think Durant and Tatum as a 1-2 for the next 2 seasons with the supporting cast they have around them. I think your championship odds go up by so much in that scenario.
They're already favored to win the
they're already favored, but now they're slightly favored. They become clear-cut favorites in that for the next 2 years. And I think also your team is built where you can protect the Durant injury stuff. You at least can protect that. And I don't know, I at least have, for all the mental question marks you have about Durant, you have Ime Udoka, who coached him for a year and can at least answer, to have boots on the ground for that situation. Be you can ask someone who's actually been there with him. If he wants him, then I'm like, okay, making that deal. If he says no, like give me Jalen over him, I don't like I think that's the kind of conversation I feel like would go on in that situation. And I mean, time will tell again how hard they push to see if that's like, oh yeah, we'll take him. If it's just Jalen and a little and an expendable guard in White, then like great. If it's more than that, if we have to tear up more of our starting five, then that's a different conversation. But
yeah, I think some people like two sort of arguments for different sides. Like one, like I think people are discounting what a full training camp and full season with Derek White will do. Like obviously we saw a big up and down from him and he was great at some times.
No, he's good.
Yeah, but he's good. Exactly. He is good. Like we've seen so much evidence that he is good. So I think that's going to be good. And then on the flip side, for the other argument, like we're talking a lot about Kevin Durant's injury history, but 2 seasons ago, Jaylen Brown didn't finish the season.
Yeah.
He was out for the playoffs. And something I just keep forgetting because of recency bias and because he was so good in this year's playoffs and he's so young. So, I mean, I guess it's not as easy as I made it out to be, but I still, I guess from a fan, I'll just go back to the
saver play. Yeah. The saver play. And the more certainly the more rewarding as a fan is the path they are currently on. And that I think we'll see if that matters to, it certainly doesn't matter. Like the fandom part doesn't matter to the front office, but the fan base will certainly hold on to that track when these things come up. All right. Make sure you're following BJax on Twitter at JaxSOBD. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe to the Winning Plays Pod. We'll be back at it for at least once a week for the rest of the offseason here as the roster gets filled out, as we get more murmurings, or just to, we need to have more deep dives about the 15th and
yes
in the roster. Like we just scratched the surface tonight, Jackson. I think we
didn't even talk about JD Davidson.
We didn't talk about JD. I know, it's a missed opportunity right now. So stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys later this week.